A beloved auto mechanic suddenly goes missing, and all eyes turn toward the grieving wife. But a far more diabolical and gruesome plot emerges as the secrets behind a tight-knit group of friends come to light. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the New York Times best-selling author of dozens of true crime books. I've dedicated the past 26 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. I think every town has that one old-school auto repair shop where most everyone knows the mechanic. You know, the friendly guy in the greasy khakis, red rag dangling out of his back pocket, grease underneath his fingernails. The guy who gives you the lowdown on your auto issues with no BS. No spin about your vehicle needing this and that. No upselling. Just a welcoming dude who fixes cars and trucks all day and goes home to his family at night. 50-year-old Harvey Huber is one of those guys, running Huber Auto Repair in Liberty Hill, Georgetown, Texas. Harvey has worked on cars since he was 15 years old. A good mechanic is like an artist. Someone who takes pride in what they do and does it with a sense of gratitude. That is Harvey Huber. At night after work, many of Harvey's friends say, the auto shop becomes this hub for people to hang around and shoot the breeze, have a few beers, and find out what is going on in town. A private social club, if you will. Harvey has this sleek Texas look about him. Skinny guy, handsome, with mostly pleasant energy. His rather salty nature comes out, his wife and friends claim, when he has too many beers. But that is rare. Married for 30 years, Harvey's wife runs the business side of things at the auto shop, answers the phones, sets appointments, and takes care of just about any other clerical work that needs doing. They have 2 kids and 5 grandkids. And the one thing the Hubers could be counted on for was helping out people in the community who had come on hard times. People would describe Harvey as goofy in a charming way, outgoing, and one of those guys who would actually give you the shirt off of his back if you wanted it. And yet, when pushed, maybe like any of us, the guy has a hard, stubborn side to him. On February 25th, 2020, Harvey finishes working for the day and, as usual, several friends show up. They know Harvey will have cold beers and some news for the day. His wife, Melissa, doesn't generally hang around, and this day is no different. She leaves for home at 5 o'clock, and Harvey says he'll call her later. By about 9:30 p.m., Melissa is home and getting ready for bed. Harvey phones and says he has decided to sleep at the shop. The night has passed him by. It's better that he doesn't drive home. This was not unusual, Melissa later says. Still, she wondered if anything was wrong and asked Harvey about her concerns. I got into it with Josh, Harvey says. Josh is an employee, young guy. Some reports claim he was like a son to Harvey. That night, Harvey kind of started in on Josh about doing more around the shop. Harvey wanted Josh to get himself certified and qualified to do other jobs. He told Josh it would help his future in the business as well. Later, Josh says, although they argued, it was nothing unusual. The same shouting and snickering people do when they've had more alcohol than they should. Near 9:15 p.m., Josh later tells the Texas Rangers he took off on foot as Harvey was preparing to go to sleep. Tomorrow was another day. When Melissa shows up the next morning, there's no sign of Harvey anywhere. His truck still parked where it was when she left. His wallet, which had $2,100 inside of it, his keys, cell phone, and cigarettes, however, are there. Definitely things Harvey would not leave behind if he had taken off somewhere that morning. So, Melissa is a bit worried. A call is made later that morning to the Texas Rangers, and they send someone out after employees, including Josh, have a look around and cannot seem to find Harvey anywhere. Josh tells the Rangers he and Harvey argued the previous night about religion and had gone toe-to-toe at one point, but it was nothing out of the ordinary after some serious drinking. He told me to get the F out of there, Josh explains, and so I did. Josh says he left on foot, walked for a while, and called Melissa and told her about the argument. Then Josh asked Melissa to text him contact information for another guy who had been hanging around the garage but had left shortly before Josh had. The guy's name is Jimmy Tishowiner, a local tow truck operator. Harvey could be stubborn as a mule at times, and he had been known to walk home from the garage, a 20-mile journey. Seems crazy, I know, but several people within his circle told the Rangers Harvey liked to do this. With that in mind, friends, employees, and family got into their vehicles that next morning, February 26th, and began driving the route Harvey might have taken on foot. Melissa stayed behind at the garage, reports say, in case news came in. She ordered pizza for everyone. Some thought this was kind of weird, but in retrospect, I think at this point, Melissa is just trying to help the situation. And there really is no cause for concern at this time. Harvey has been gone, it seems, for about a half a day. Maybe he was really pissed about the previous night and decided to take off on foot somewhere and just cool off. After the search of the route Harvey would have taken if he walked back home produced no results, and investigators ran out of options as far as finding Harvey nearby, they asked Melissa to come into the station to have a more thorough conversation. They would be doing the same for anyone who was at the garage the previous night. After Josh had gotten Jimmy Tishowiner's phone number from Melissa the previous night, and the two had a little chat, Josh recalled seeing Jimmy in his tow truck drive past him along the road, heading back toward the garage. This was close to 9:30 p.m., Josh remembered. The Texas Rangers were in the process of obtaining video surveillance from as many cameras around the area of the garage as possible. There would be confirmation on video of Josh leaving, Jimmy taking off, and also if anyone returned to the garage. The one thing that bothered investigators was something several employees had said as they looked around the garage grounds. There was a tarp missing from a car parked in the yard. This is one of those details, as an investigator, that can stick to your brain and nag at you. You know it means something. When Melissa heard they wanted her to come into the station for a more in-depth chat, she said she was going to hire an attorney first. We just wanted basic information, one of the Rangers says later, and she didn't want to speak to us. Her husband of 30 years is missing. Why wouldn't she want to do everything she could to help? Thank you for supporting this show and listening. If you haven't, hit the subscriber button wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. I'll get into the continued search for Harvey Huber and the first break in this case after we pay some bills. More Crossing the Line with Emily and Phelps in a moment. Rangers sat down and took a look at the video they had collected from several businesses in the area of the garage and that route Josh, Harvey's employee, said he took after leaving the garage. Remember, Josh was on foot. This would be a good litmus test to find out if Josh and several others were telling the truth. The one video raising the tallest red flag was time-stamped 9:47 p.m. This video is from Georgetown High School, which is close enough to the garage to capture what was going on over there. In this video, one investigator watches as a flatbed tow truck, presumably that friend of Harvey's, Jimmy, pulls up to the garage and turns off the lights on the vehicle. About 15 minutes later, the same tow truck starts up again, its lights pop back on, and the truck begins to back into the garage. Now, in an earlier interview Rangers conducted with Jimmy, he said he did go back to the garage that night, and the times he gave match up to the video. That's a positive sign. Jimmy said Harvey was there when he returned. He was very irate and ranting about something, Jimmy explained. Did you go into the office or have any confrontation with Harvey? The investigators asked Jimmy. No, not at all, he says. I took off after that. Jimmy says he locked the gate into the garage when he left, essentially locking Harvey inside the grounds. Why did you do that? I don't know, Jimmy says. Where did you go after leaving the garage for the second time that night? If you recall, Jimmy was at the garage earlier with everyone else, partying, but had left before Josh and the others. Jimmy tells the Rangers he is not answering that question. Check the GPS on my tow truck, he says, as if challenging them. It would be better if you just told us where you went so we could confirm you're not involved with Mr. Huber's disappearance. No, Jimmy says, I am not telling you. Looking more closely at the video of Jimmy's tow truck leaving the garage, at about the 10:45 p.m. timestamp mark, the investigator stops the video. He zooms in on Jimmy's truck. There seems to be something on the back flatbed part of the tow truck. The ranger then goes to a second video they have from a local business along the route Jimmy took when he left the garage. That video depicts an object, the ranger's report says, on the back portion of the flatbed wrecker, which is consistent in size with being a human corpse. That's a bold statement. In another video, they capture the same object and realize that it looks like a human body wrapped in a tarp, with the tarp actually flapping in the wind. The ranger sends investigators over to the towing company Jimmy works for and confirms that he was on call that night, and the wrecker in the video they have matched the license plate number to is the wrecker that Jimmy was driving. Can we have a look at that truck? Investigators ask Jimmy's boss. He walks them over to the vehicle. 47 years old at the time, Jimmy is a cagey-looking son of a gun. Balding, shaved head, some red stubble on his face, blue eyes, and a very gaunt look. Jimmy has quite the background. In 1994, back in Kansas where he lived at the time, He was convicted of attempted rape and solicitation of murder on top of kidnapping and aggravated robbery. Those are all violent crimes of the most severe. The guy had spent 16 years in a Kansas prison and an additional 7 years in an Oklahoma prison. Rangers, of course, know they are dealing with a convicted violent offender in Jimmy. And they also know that in the criminal world, previous behavior is a good predictor of future behavior. The fact that Jimmy will not say where he went after leaving the garage, knowing they can access the information themselves, says a lot. Jimmy seems to be trying to hide something. The Rangers call in Williamson County crime scene techs to analyze the tow truck that Jimmy was driving the previous night after taking a look at the truck themselves. Because on the back end and the sides of the tow truck, visible by eye, investigators can clearly see what they believe to be bloodstains. As all of that is going on, cell phone records for Jimmy's phone come in. And so they are able now to track exactly where he had gone after leaving the garage with, they now assume, Harvey Huber's body in the back of his wrecker. Jimmy drove from the garage to what they call a private location in Georgetown. It was one of 3 different places Jimmy drove that night. This particular location had what a report says is a tunnel entrance directly underneath a private driveway. It's now March 2nd, not quite a week since Harvey disappeared. The Rangers head out to this property and begin to poke around. This tunnel is about 300 yards long and kind of tight, though a man or two can walk down it if you bend down. One Ranger steps into the tunnel, pops on his flashlight, and begins to walk, looking for anything that might stand out. No sooner did he enter the tunnel does the Ranger notice a large brownish stain on the ground. A quick field test indicates blood. Jimmy's cell phone records show that his phone was in the exact location of the blood stain early in the morning, February 26th at 3:01 a.m. As they continue searching this tunnel, more bad news for the Huber family is discovered. Several pieces of bone are found inside the tunnel, as well as additional bloodstains. When Rangers look at the fragments of bone, they are certain the bone is from a human skull. And just as the Rangers are standing out there, near the tunnel, processing the scene, they look over toward the road, and wouldn't you know, there he is, driving by. Jimmy, the tow truck driver. Let's take another break, come back, and continue with more Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps. I'll keep saying this because I keep running into it. How did this piece of garbage scum, Jimmy the rapist, tow truck driver, possibly think he could get away with driving out of Harvey's garage with Harvey's body wrapped in a tarp sitting on top of his flatbed tow truck? I mean, seriously, how in the hell does this guy run that scenario through his little brain and think, nobody will know? Nobody is going to find out. Look, everyone has seen at least one episode of Forensic Files. For crying out loud, are people this stupid, or am I naive in thinking people are smarter than they actually are? So just to explain a bit more where we are, Rangers lock onto a drainage tunnel along the highway underneath the road where they tracked Jimmy the scumbag tow truck driver's phone to. And they now find multiple pieces of evidence telling them that Jimmy pulled over, dragged Harvey's body off the back of the wrecker, pulled the body across a metal guardrail along the roadway, thumped it down onto the embankment, and then dragged it through the dirt and brush into that drainage tunnel. And the guy did all of this, thinking nobody would ever find out. There is blood everywhere, bone fragments, footprints, DNA, pieces of brown and blue tarp from Harvey's garage, and scrape marks along the top of the guardrail. So they bring Jimmy back in. He sits down and puts his head on the table. "What are you doing?" they ask him. "Meditating," Jimmy says. From what they learned, Jimmy often sleeps in his tow truck or inside the tunnels around Georgetown. So he is, in a sense, homeless. They then asked Jimmy about the blood and bone they found, and specifically the bloodstains on the truck he was driving. "I don't know anything about that. I haven't done anything to Harvey." Okay. In back of Harvey's garage is an old RV. As they begin processing the garage scene more thoroughly, they find bloodstains out near the RV. What's more, they go back and begin talking to Melissa, Harvey's wife. Something isn't sitting right with investigators. You don't kill a guy over an argument while drunk at his garage when you've done the same drinking and arguing for years with the same dude. Just doesn't seem like a proper motive here. They ask Melissa about Jimmy. Are you close to him? And there it is, that look on her face. Investigators can see it. Melissa is hiding something. What is it, they want to know? Melissa admits she and Jimmy were having an affair, or, as the report puts it, an ongoing sexual relationship. This wasn't some recent thing where they found themselves at the garage one night, had one too many Lone Stars, passion took over, and they decided to shack up. It had been going on since early 2019. Just a week before Harvey was murdered, Jimmy had texted Melissa, "Happy Valentine's Day, babe. I love you." Melissa texted back, "I love you too." The next day, which becomes an interesting bit of information to investigators, Jimmy texted Melissa this: "I am headed out to the tunnel." From there, the texts get even more fascinating. On the day Harvey was murdered, Melissa texted Jimmy a photo of the two of them together. Nothing sexual in nature, just a selfie with the two of them cozying up together. On the morning following Harvey's murder, Melissa met Jimmy at the tunnel where rangers had recently found bone fragments and blood. So, all of this beckons the question: had Melissa known about Harvey's murder? Had she asked Jimmy to take care of him? Another big break comes when Jimmy's boss calls in and says he has some information to share. They go out and speak to him. Jimmy's boss, Mr. Investigator, actually recorded a conversation he had with Jimmy back on February 28th. Something, he says, you Rangers are going to want to listen to. Clearly, on this tape, Jimmy says this: without a body and without a weapon, they cannot charge anybody with murder. So that was Jimmy's plan. No body, no crime. More stupidity by the scumbag tow truck driver. They then speak to one of Jimmy's friends who says, "Oh yeah, he came over my house and told me he killed Harvey. He said he and Harvey were in back of the tow truck and Harvey had bent over and Jimmy hit him in the head with a hatchet. So I asked him why he did it. Jimmy tells me, I cannot stand Harvey disrespecting his wife anymore, but still, she refuses to leave him." They wondered if this friend of Jimmy's had heard maybe what Jimmy had done with Harvey's body. Remember, they still haven't found Harvey. Sure, he says. He told me he yanked Harvey off the back of the tow truck, dragged him down into a drainage ditch, and dismembered him. He said he cut off his arms, cut off his head, and cut his torso in half. Do you know where he might have put those body parts? They ask next. He told me he put them into black garbage bags and placed them in dumpsters all around the city, but he never told me where exactly. I'll be right back with the conclusion of this case and a few more interesting twists. Was Melissa, Harvey's wife, involved? You are listening to Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps. Jimmy the tow truck driver is a dope, a complete moron. When Melissa told him she wasn't leaving Harvey, he should have moved on, found himself a single Texas gal, and forgot about Harvey and Melissa in the garage. But something inside Jimmy tugged, that pull of violence within him, that need to control and maintain control of the things in life he felt he could not, at whatever cost he decided. Jimmy soon confesses to the murder as part of a plea agreement. He says he lured Harvey out to that RV in the back of the property and struck him in the head with a hatchet before dismembering his body. The idea Jimmy had in his little head was that Melissa would come crawling into his arms after Harvey's death, and they would ride off into a Texas sunset together on white horses and live happily ever after. Again, an idiot. Still, the question remained, did Melissa play any role in her husband's murder? She admitted that she had told Jimmy one night that she wished Harvey would crash his car on the way home from work, but then backtracked and felt bad about saying that, telling investigators, "I said, no, I don't want that to happen because he could hurt himself and hurt someone else." Authorities claim there was no evidence to support the prosecution of Melissa having planned or encouraged Jimmy, the scumbag, to commit the murder. And after looking at this case and several of the witness statements, I tend to agree. Having an affair doesn't make you immediately part of your lover's plot to kill your husband. That's a public perception in a cynical world where we watch too many murder shows. In 2022, Jimmy pleaded guilty to murder in exchange for a 60-year prison sentence. That'll do it for this week. Be safe, be aware. Sources for this episode include arrest warrant affidavit, State of Texas, Williamson County, felony complaint against Jimmy Tishowner. Who Killed Beloved Texas Auto Shop Owner Harvey Huber by Jill Cederstrom, Oxygen, June 18th, 2023. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinas, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.